Some claim that the age of a true gentleman is far behind us, but here at 284 Media, obviously, we disagree. He may appear in different guises today, but the values and ideals that make him a gent still stand. Gentlemen, aspiring gentlemen, and of course, the women that hold us down. I'm Ron Grant. Welcome to The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, a show poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. Now, don't worry, calm down. It doesn't always involve suits and bow ties, but instead real-life lessons that translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men. Thank you all for taking this journey with me. A huge part of being a gentleman is making mistakes. Yes, I said it, falling hard on your ass, but having the tenacity to get up and dust yourself off. Being humble enough to acknowledge that you are human. You have flaws. Mistakes don't define who you are. They simply show the world that you are a work in progress. My next guest is no stranger to making mistakes, but what's amazing about him is that his mistakes do not define him. They have not held him captive, and they surely do not set precedent for his life moving forward. He's talented, honest, and a true ladies' man, a musical genius. Joining me today is the one and only Ramon G. When we return from a word from our sponsors. Brilliant Hands and Minds Tutoring Services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals. The one and only Ramon G. Welcome to the Art of a Distinguished Gentleman.
Thanks for having
Cheers,
me.
my brother.
Cheers. Yes, man.
What's your drink of choice?
Well, I usually go with Brugal and cranberry.
Okay,
actually.
Brugal and cranberry.
Yeah.
There's a drink that I get on the top of the hill with a G shot. With the Brugal with a float of stone ginger wines. Ever had that?
Yeah? No, I never
really
tried
good.
that.
Really
yeah,
good.
I know about the G-shot, but it's
yeah.
actually in one shot glass.
Okay, one shot glass. Okay, cool. This
So you
one is
actually
just
have
with
this
a
one floating?
Yeah, and
Oh,
it's
wow.
pretty cool.
Okay.
You have been a living example of, just like you are, and just like we said in the intro, making mistakes. But those mistakes don't define you. You've made it out and you've continued to do great things. As you look back on your journey of being incarcerated, do you have any regrets, to be honest?
The only regret I really have is basically having to go through that to realize your true potential and stuff. You know, if we as young adolescents and even teens, you know, if we listen to our parents a lot more, you know, I say parents and I use that term very, very, very strongly because, you know, a lot of the guys don't have a father figure in the house. So your mom, your auntie, your grandma, whoever raised you, your parents, period. If we actually listen and stop saying, I know all the time, you know, kids tend to say, oh, you know, you have to do it. Oh, I know. We don't know nothing.
Yeah, we have
You
no
know,
clue.
if we actually sit down and take the time to actually listen and take the experiences from our older people, the elders in the household, we would avoid a lot of things, you know. And
So your understanding or your input is really, perhaps you wish you listened a little bit more.
yeah, well, I was a good listener.
Okay.
You know, you just have this point where, and you could find this on my Facebook page as well. There was a short paragraph that I wrote titled Listen. And it was basically just giving short examples about when I stopped listening. You know, and I always have been the type of kid or the child too, or even a man, to actually listen to myself. Meaning your internal gut feeling, that you know,
instinct.
that conscious, that instinct. You know, and it's actually beyond your conscience because your conscience is only like there. This is something else that's very spiritual. And it came to one point where I stopped listening. Like things were going so good and I got caught up in all this, you know, in all the extra media and the this and, you know, and I stopped listeting. And that's when
Do you
things
think
start to
in
take
this
off
day
on
and
you.
age, in the 21st century, it is a little bit too easy to get caught up?
Sure. There's a lot of distractions. There's this quote that I read when I was in prison. It said, do not let the noise of the world keep you from hearing God's word. And it's very true.
Okay.
Like, it's very noisy. Like we have so much going on, especially since the invention of Facebook and social media, and it's very, very noisy.
How have you remained true to yourself?
Well, basically, I try to do it. It kind of easy for me because if I'm not myself, I just don't feel right.
Okay,
It just
okay.
don't feel right.
Yeah, yeah. Walk me through your time in prison from the moment you uh, found out that you were going to be spending time at Her Majesty's prison to the moment you got out. Uh, Walk me through it. How was that? What was it like?
Well, I mean, come on, anybody be terrified, to be, because the conception of prison as it stands is, you're locked up. You don't know. Obviously, my crime was very severe and it was very serious. So I had no idea when I was going to get to go home, And let's keep that conception. It is right, that feeling, that initial feeling that, you're not going to go home. You can't see your people. You can't have the ladies that you love so much. You can't have your music. I felt separated from everything. So that's at an abrupt instant, like immediately, everything is taken away. So it's like that's a nerve-wracking situation, and it was kind of tough in the beginning, having to find lawyers and all these people in your face and people telling you did what you didn't do, and it's a whole bunch of noise, and eventually you had to get a grip. It was just me and God talking. We had some serious talks with God. And he was giving me instruction.
Okay.
He wasn't punishing me or anything. He was actually giving me instruction. So this is why I would say, the term mistake, making a mistake, you never know. You thought you make a mistake, but this is exactly where you needed to be to become who you are about to be.
Right.
You understand? So the first 6 months was it was a little tough, and I made it extra tough on myself because I didn't even, request for a fan to be comfortable.
Right.
We were basically in there and I was just having my talks with God, gave my instructions and trying my best to develop a routine to be as obedient as I can. Coming from having everything to having that's a very hard thing to do because you feel entitled to be able to go outside when you want to. Just a simple thing as going outside at 6:30 in the afternoon feels like such a gift because that's taken away.
Right.
So the first 6 months were a little tough. I got my instruction, and after that, I started to make my move. I would actually be patient. I that's the biggest thing about prison. You learn patience. That place, if it can't teach you anything, it teaches you patience.
Patience, young man.
Yes,
Patience.
patience. To wait on anything.
And don't go to prison to learn patience.
No,
the article of this.
Please don't go there to learn patience.
Gravitate and get as much and learn as much patience as you can without having to go through what Ramon went through.
Right. So basically, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to go there. I went through it. I tell people all the time, my 10 years were for all of us. Yeah. So now it's my duty to come out here and actually spread this to who need to hear it.
So 10 years.
Yep.
An entire decade.
Yep.
That would be seemingly, it's like cut out. You read in a book and it stops here, and then 10 years later and you're trying to pick up. What was it like trying to get back your 10 years? I don't know. But what was it like?
No man could travel backward in time. It makes sense too. Okay, I had you here when you were out. I need you to be beyond that.
Wow.
So the focus right now is to keep going. Forget what happened already. You can't change the past. Forget about yesterday. Don't worry about...
Forget about the last 10 years.
Forget about that. I mean, I was 21 when I was incarcerated. I'm 31 now. And I just got out in March. And March 5th is my birthday. I got out on the 12th. So, it's like you don't waste time. Don't dwell on the past. Don't dwell on it. Because the time you would waste sitting down, oh, woe is me, I crying, I tired, it don't make no sense. Why not use that same energy and that same thought process to think about what you're going to do tomorrow? Apply for a job, start your own business, help your family if that's how you're able to do right now. Take care of your kids, pay your child support, figure out ways how to fix your problems. Not all at once, pick them one by one to stay sane. To stay sane, pick your problems one by one and sort them out. Don't try to do all one time.
Choose your battles.
Yeah. And that's another thing. So it's like the 10 years, I watch it and I reflect on it a lot because I have, as much as it might be prison and as much as the British Virgin Islands, prison and the British Virgin Islands don't have much to offer because it's a very small institution. there are things that you could take away from it.
Like,
Yeah, a lot of negative things happen, but for one, my biggest thing, patience. You could take that away. The discipline and crowd control. You actually learn very good crowd control in there, especially dealing with all these different
of
personalities of
course,
the inmates and still an officer. So
of
you have the
course.
staff to deal with and you still have the inmates to deal with.
Yeah.
So, and all these different personalities clash.
Clash,
You
yeah.
have fights, you have cuss outs, you have the whole nine, So it's like actually learning how to see through that smoke and think about the bigger picture. That's a very special and important thing to have, especially coming back out there into the world. So put it this way, the prison has like maybe 140 something inmates, right? That's just 140 something. That's like basically, I'm from St. Thomas, so we have projects. That's like 2 stairwells. That's it.
Yeah.
You can imagine you out there in the world and you deal with millions of people, and a lot of people going to customer service jobs and stuff like that. So that crowd control is actually very good. You learn respect. You learn appreciation. You appreciate the little things like I'm talking things that don't even mean none. That's being in touch with the sensitive side of yourself,
course.
and you get that too. You understand. You start to understand yourself more. You become who you're supposed to be. But that's if you take the time out to actually nurture this transformation.
From what I'm hearing from you, just like you said, is a lot of nurturing and taking care of the mind, body, and
Yes,
spirit. A lot of
yes.
times, us as young men, and even the older men, we don't take the time to nurture ourselves.
Yes.
We're providers, we're businessmen, we're teachers, we're giving so much to the community, but we don't take the time to nurture ourselves. You spoke also a lot about God.
Yes.
And I'll touch on it because I think it's imperative that we have this conversation.
Yes.
A lot of persons, a lot of young men who might be watching this show of the perception that you have to go to church every day and you have to sit in the front pew and you have to be this depiction of who a gentleman is. But in your conversation, really what I'm taking from it is God was the center
Yes.
of your survival, if you want to use the word survival.
Yeah.
Tell me about your relationship with the Maker.
That relationship, boy, it was rocky. It was always there, in the islands that were very rooted in religion, and our parents and aunts. I have this aunt rather, sorry, that she took me to church from a very, very young age. My parents would always make sure we go to church, and at a certain age you kind of, I wouldn't say stray away, but you end up being busy with the world.
Yeah.
So church becomes something,
Secondary, yeah.
a casual event kind of, So that's what I'm saying. It was rocky. So I'm starting from the beginning, and then eventually it came non-existent. Not meaning that I stopped believing or I stopped praying or anything like that. It became non-existent as far as the fellowship in the church.
yeah.
With all the talk and the confusion and we don't get involved in conspiracies. I'm a believer, so I don't think that you have to go to church every day. I would, go sometimes. I would go, but I pray a lot. Like I prayed before I came in the studio. So, it's like we just need to have that connection. So I thought about it, and when you reach to the point where you start to say, I did this and I did that, and this is when your blessings are kind of halted. When you start taking all the credit for what you do, this is where your blessings are being halted. And you wouldn't even know. With everything we do, we have to put God first and give thanks. You give thanks and say, God, thank you for giving me this idea that
Wow.
made me $1 billion. Say that first and then say, thank you for giving me the strength.
Acknowledge your
to,
Maker at
yes,
all times.
acknowledge it, because he would halt your blessings if you don't. It had one point even where I got so upset and stuff. This is even before I went to prison. Like things started to go a little south. And I started to say, I started like, is there even a God? Like, and that's blasphemy in the book if you look at it. And I asked for forgiveness as usual, but it was after I was in prison I realized what I did. And the conversation, like he reminded me of the things that, that actually put me on the wrong side of things. I wouldn't say the wrong path, because I believe everybody's path is different. Everybody's journey is different.
Indeed.
So there is no wrong path. The only path there is your journey. I could never live your life. So that's your life. If you have to trip up when you go set this door, that's yours. I'm not going to make the same mistake. So, or even end up in the same situation. So this is why it's important to make that connection. You turn off your antennas and you're gonna be out there just roaming rogue. Like you can't use your GPS if there's no internet connection. You're gonna keep saying connected, so you get lost, right?
Facts.
Cool. So same concept, we need to have that connection to be able to take that next step. If you come up with an idea, or if an idea, like I like to say, is downloaded into our mind from God, sit down, assess it, and then pray about it. So he'll give us a few ideas based on our capabilities. And sometimes our capabilities are of some that we never even know we had. So therefore, you would actually, you're a very accomplished man. Admire you so much.
Appreciate that, bro.
And one of these days, he'll probably say, you know what, Ron? I think you need to fly a plane. And you'll be like, what? I'm not a pilot.
Yeah, I'll be like, nah, dude.
Exactly. But you'll be surprised. You sit down in a pilot seat and you know what to do. You know what I mean? So it's things like that, that guidance, that direction, we need to be mindful of it. So we actually need that connection with God. And that helped me so much regaining that connection. And I'm very thankful for him letting me back in.
Amazing.
So it's I've been receiving a lot of I wouldn't say backlash or scrutiny. I wouldn't say that bad. It wasn't that bad. It just been questions, like, well, you talk about God a lot, and you used to always be in a church, and when they came up there, and I'm one person that wants the church need help. If a homeless person need help, anybody, I gonna help. If I can help you, I gonna help you, And it's a lot of questions being raised because they're like, you were in the church, you singing gospel, and you doing what you're doing, but now you're doing your music, you're doing soca music, you're in the wall again, and I was like, you people just don't get it.
Yeah.
I follow him out of it. He telling me to go ahead and do it. I have the journey that I've been on. Like, if people watch it, everybody watch it, and they come to me like, look, what you going through is so amazing. Like, it's so inspiring, and I'm like, what are you talking about? So sometimes it's actually over my head. I don't even realize what's going on. But people always remind me that it's very helpful to them.
Of course.
In
It's
simple conversation. Yes. So I'm trying to do what I was tasked to do. Right. So don't judge me.
In doing what you were tasked to do, you are really serving as a vessel.
Yes.
Right? Because a lot of the times we go about life thinking that perhaps we're the only ones going through certain things until we see someone with the confidence and the grit to speak up and say, hey, I've been through this, but it has not defined me. A couple things. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but gentlemen, I want to reiterate a couple things that we've established along this conversation. Patience.
Yes.
Accepting your calling.
Yes.
Accepting your maker. Realizing that there's a higher power. And appreciation for the simple things. Humility. All these and more with Ramon G when we get back. You're watching The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman.
Father Jesus, that line here long like church service. Alright, do enjoy the rest of it then. Next customer line, please. Wait, hold on a second.
Yes, Sonny boy, come, yes,
Good
Sonny.
morning.
Good morning, Sonny boy. Hold on there. You must have cut front of people.
It's okay. I'll take care of it.
What? No man to take care of me.
How may I assist you?
Yes.
You want top of power?
You want top of power?
Join the prepaid party with CCT and enjoy more affordable data plans, more top-up promotions, more savings with hero bundles, and more value for your money each and every Tuesday with Top Up Turn Up Tuesday. Visit a CCT store today or anywhere CCT Top Up is sold and top up your phone.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You want top of power?
Gentlemen, aspiring gentlemen, and the women that hold us down, welcome back. You're watching The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman. With me today is the talented, articulate, the very honest, and of course, the ladies love him, the one and only Ramon G. Ramon, as we were talking before about patience and getting to know yourself and finding purpose, you have had a very special relationship with your father and your family
Yes.
in general.
Yes.
And I want to talk a little bit about loss because it's so important. You not only lost a sibling,
Right.
but you lost your father.
Mm-hmm.
And in today's day and age, we struggle with having, many of us struggle with having that male figure to help guide us. Tell me about your relationship with your father and your brother, and how you dealt with your loss throughout this time that have really helped you to be the man that you are today.
Oh wow. Well, that's a heavy one.
It is a heavy question,
Yeah.
and I know a thing or two about loss, and I'll tell you this: persons who often say, give it some time, give it some time, give it some time. I don't think they really understand
No.
um, when a piece of your heart has been, kind of ripped from you. I lost a sister,
Yep.
and it's been decades. It still hasn't changed anything. But tell me about that process of loss for you.
Yes. It is exactly as you describe it. Very, very heavy. It was, we could start with my brother because he passed first in the year 2000. It was very tough for me, especially actually send me into maybe like a year of silence. Like, they were actually looking to put me in special classes and stuff like that because I wasn't really interacting with anybody. I was kind of in a shell.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say I was in a shell. I was coping with it. It's just I with my brother, how my family was, like I really didn't need no friends. Outside of me playing baseball and all the sports that I had, my athlete friends, my sports friends, and music friends in Rising Stars, Steel Orchestra and stuff like that. Outside of that, I didn't need no friend. Because at home, I always had my brothers. We have a big family. So my brothers, my cousins, they were always there. But my brother, Anthony in particular,
Okay.
the reason I am the way I am at such a young age is because of him. He had seizures. He had epilepsy.
Okay.
So I had to be the big brother, and it was cool though. It came so natural, I guess like I say again, I guess God had just had this plan.
Yeah.
So, having to take care of him, like I had to go everywhere with him. I had to do everything with him, the only times, and even sometimes, even if he go to the bathroom, we gotta be there. Because if for who don't know, epileptic seizures are the worst.
Yes.
Anything could trigger that. Like one of these lights just so happened to turn off and turn back on too fast. He episode one time, So like I had to play video games in black and white and
Wow.
things like that. And even down to that, like Street Fighter, I couldn't play that at all because when they start kicking and stuff
Yeah,
on it, we'll be there and then all of a sudden the controller on the ground and he shaking.
Wow.
So we had to stop doing that. Like he couldn't do stuff that normal kids do. So we had to create our own fun. So eventually he still used to do it. Like I guess he reached to a point where he was kind of, defiant of his illness. He was like, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah,
So
screw this.
he had this one time, to be short, he had this one time, we were at Subbase in St. Thomas and we were fishing. And all of us were there, my dad, and my brother. And me and him was fishing, him and we were fishing on the side. And my dad was listening to the Braves and the Dodgers game. And I turned to get some bait out the box and I hear splash. And this is done with a cruise ship spark, And I splashed and I was like, wow, we have a big one, man. I realized, I see no brother. I was like, oh no. And without even thinking, I just head over the dock straight. I had to dive like maybe 40 feet to get my
Wow.
brother. Me and my dad, we literally had to jump in and get my brother. And, that was scary for me because just the day before we fell out. And we were in a car, we went to the grocery store and we fell out in the car and he was telling me some stupidness and I was like, man, I do not know you no more. Like I sick of you, And he went in the grocery store and he had an episode in there and everybody came running out. So when I saw everybody running out, like I didn't just tell my dad anything, I just immediately run inside because I knew it was him. So when I went inside, the grocery store, when they passed it across the laser, that refracted into his eye.
Okay.
And boy, he hit his head, bust open his head on the counter and stuff. It was a big mess, and I felt guilty even up to this day about that because it was my fault. If I was there, maybe he might not have bust his head. He might have got the episode, but he probably wouldn't even get that because I would have gone in line instead of him, And
Knowing his condition.
yeah, and it was good because it helped me to become a man, at a very young age, especially having responsibility like that. Actually responsible for my brother's life, and it has a lot of pros, but the only cons, sometimes you wish that you had certain things of childhood. You had experienced certain things. And
So you lost your brother while incarcerated.
no, my brother, he actually died in the year 2000.
Okay, so you were already out by then.
Yeah,
And what about
my
your dad?
dad, I lost my dad right before I went in 2009, March 22nd.
And coping and dealing with that loss, how has that been?
Because I was still fresh. I was only without him a year, when I got incarcerated. So 2009, November 2010. Um, that was rough for me because we did everything together. Me and my dad. My dad was my support system. My mom was there too, but she was living somewhere else. So it was very heavy for me, especially because all this responsibility, like this wasn't just dealing with your brother.
Yeah.
This was everything. Just and a 19, 20-year-old guy, 21.
What
and
ad-
it was
what
rough.
what advice would you give to young men, gentlemen, as it pertains to dealing with grief? And I'll tell you why I ask you that. Because we have this notion that men aren't supposed to cry, men aren't supposed to show emotions, and you're just supposed to deal with it. What would you say to someone out there who's dealing with grief, a young man particularly?
Well, I would say this much. I'm not particularly a crier either. But there are some times when you just can't help it. It just overflows. You can't, and trying to fight that, you might do something to yourself.
Yeah.
Trying to fight that. Sometimes you need to come to terms that, listen, the only way I go get through this is to cry. You have some people that get upset. When they get upset, their eyes water, and that's because they get out of
They
his
need
way.
some cleansing,
Yeah, you
yeah.
need to get out of his way because that's a very upset person. They're crying and they're not even showing no facial expression as if they cry. No, that's check that person because that's a crazy person.
They need some
And then
assistance.
yes, so they need somebody to talk to or they need to get out somehow. But try your best to bring it out in a positive way. I would say this much, like I haven't really shed a tear since my father died, and that was the day when I got the news to come to the hospital because he had passed. Ever since that day, I haven't cried because he always told me, he said, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, don't care who say, do not stop playing your music. So I literally had to play on the beach to a concert the same day my father died.
Wow.
And I was telling her I ain't going, and I just keep playing back in my head. My father said, don't mind what happened to me, play your music.
No, music, I'm glad you brought that up because
Yes.
music has been one of your avenues. And not only it's been your avenue, but it's been a way that you have blessed the world and by extension the beautiful Virgin Islands. Tell me about you. Tell me about music because I see you doing your thing, and I feel it too because it's the same sense that I get. It's like your face that just light up, dude.
Yeah.
And there's this magic, there's this energy
Yeah.
when it comes to music. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that energy is overwhelming in such a good sense of the word. Um, like when I'm on the drums, when I on the keyboards producing, when I on stage performing, like nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Like if that's my utopia. That's my escape. That's my cave. That's my
That's
other
your shit.
planet. Yeah, that's just that other place you
Yeah.
could go to that nothing don't matter. The bills, the headache, and it's just so fulfilling because I'm utilizing the talent that I was blessed with.
But there are a lot of young men who have talents.
And they don't use
It
it.
might be music, it might be singing, it might be something else. But not only don't they use it, we're so concerned with what other people think
True.
and the critics that they hold themselves hostage and they're not sharing that gift with the world. What would you say to them?
Oh well, I could speak. You could come from me.
could speak to that,
Yeah, I
yeah.
could speak to that. It started with this. This was why it took me so long to get back into singing because I always thought that my material, nobody would like it. And when I started writing stuff for other people, and they were like, "Yo, like this is," and they're like, "You have the voice, why you don't sing?" Like, and it's like, I was like, people ain't gonna like it, and I was so wrong. I mean, and it's fulfilling to know that you were wrong, but it's sad because you start to regret why it took so long, But I could speak on that. Like that self-criticism. You could psych yourself out of some stuff. So you have to be careful. Like I was an athlete first. And almost every team, everything I ever done as far as athletics, I always was a winner.
Okay.
You know, and it's crazy. Like basketball, I started playing soccer in the prison, win the tournament in there. Like, you know, it's little things like that. Even cricket, like, you know, and it's
Interesting.
Yeah, you just have the talent to be good at a lot of stuff. But when it comes to music, that's just where it feels right. You feel like you belong, you know? So to all the kids out there, all the guys, the girls, everybody, if you find that niche, if you find your place, utilize it, live in it, you know, make it your home. Don't leave until you feel like it's time to move on to something else.
Indeed. And continue, please, please, please. Continue
course,
blessing us
of
with your
course.
talents and your gifts.
Of course, man.
Tell me, what is or who is a distinguished gentleman to you? When you think about the art of a distinguished gentleman, you think about all the stereotypes that have been placed on men, and you think of chivalry and all that kind of stuff. How would you define a gentleman?
Right. So the first one that actually came to mind, I've been watching him from very young. And, you know, you always had most of the kids these days. I don't know if they still show. Do they show George Mathis still?
Of course, they still do. Yeah,
He
yeah.
is the
It's a good pick. Great pick. Yeah.
we have a lot in common. But this is way before. Like, I actually gravitated towards him because he was not ashamed of his failure.
Yeah.
He was not ashamed to tell you that he failed. And look where he is today. You know, he is the exact example of the same situation I'm going through. You know, he always showed the tenacity to just keep going. And he said that, he just kept pushing, even when people didn't want to hire him, even when people looked down on him and judge him for what happened or what he as we say, stereotype. He was stereotyped as a convict, an ex-con, and it's even worse in America, you know. But he kept pushing. That's one of the people that I mention him because everybody could see him. That's somebody that you could Google right now and you
it'll
would
come
see.
up.
Yes, so he is the perfect example, George Mathis, because he handles himself in a very, very professional manner. But yet he could get home. He could get home. He could show you that I
switch it
still
up.
home. Yeah. So he's still down to earth. I would say, of course, my dad, he was very, 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 you know, down to earth. Like anybody who knows Sifu, Elvino George, like they miss him, they tell me so all the time. You know, and even when I was singing his song on the Castro Street, people were like, man, I just miss your father, you know. And I was like, I didn't even know they know him, you know what I mean? But, you know, there was like, he was such a real and friendly and down to earth,
authentic
yet
person.
very authentic. You know, there was no clone. No, I was the closest thing, and I so much different from my,
Interesting.
you know, and that's one of the people for sure that I would look upon and grace with that title, you know, as a very distinguished gentleman.
What is one, or perhaps you have more than one, the characteristic that you value most in people?
Oh, well, first and foremost, I value that personality. Like if you have to have that. I wouldn't say you have to be a people person, but at least keep an open mind because you never know. The person that you push away might be the one to give you a hand from falling over this cliff. You have to be careful. So I would say work on your personality, work on your people skills. That's one of the things that I deal with the most. And I appreciate, you know, deal with me. If you can't help me, tell me no. I appreciate that.
So you like the directness, the
Yes,
straightforward.
be direct. Just tell me no from now. Don't have me hanging on to a whim. You know, that don't make no sense. Just tell me no. I good with that.
Best compliment you've ever gotten?
Oh, man.
I'm sure you get a lot.
Yeah, I got a whole lot of compliments. The best compliment I've ever gotten. This thing I'm gonna think about that. Let me try to make it quick. The best compliment I've ever gotten. This was actually from a lady, an old lady. I didn't know her from anywhere, and I was in the terminal on St. Thomas, and they helped her with her bags. And she grabbed my hand and she watched me and she said, "You know, one day you're gonna be a very, very successful man." And I was like, "What is that?" You know, and she was just smiling at me with this big grin and this glowing face, you know, and it was like kind of strange to me, you know. And she said, "Just keep doing what you're doing. You're gonna go through some things, but just keep pushing." Yeah. So basically, I would say that was advice. That wasn't even a compliment, but the compliment was, "You're very handsome and you're gonna be
Oh, that
very
one gets me all the
successful."
time.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
The biggest risk you've ever taken?
The biggest risk I've ever taken, to totally be honest, starting Blacksmith Entertainment. that was for me the biggest risk that I've ever taken, going into business for yourself. Especially being at the level that I was incarcerated.
Yeah.
So it isn't to say that I could have been out here marketing and meeting people and making connections and extending the black book. It was tough because I was inside, but the I would say my track record has been very good, especially with music. So people believe in me to produce and help or sing or create, So it was the few clients that I got in the beginning, that was awesome, and it helped because look at that. One of my very first clients was Sister Joyce, and when she came and we worked together, the first time we worked together, she won.
Nice.
She won in 2 different shows, and that was I mean, that was historic, and that things like that helped me to believe in,
Amazing.
that decision was very, very, that it was a serious decision though. I was like, how am I get the money to do this thing? And
you know, figure it out, yeah.
Yes, me and my business partner Kim, she's very, very resourceful, and she was there to egg me on. She was like, dude, you're so talented, why not? So yeah, that was
Amazing.
my biggest one.
When you think about music, you're such a musical genius. What would be the one type of music that people would be surprised you listen to? Mine's is country music. I love country music, man. I could sit down there and listen to, all of it. And, the people around me are like, huh? What are you doing? But I
Right.
love country music. What is it for you?
Well, first off, I think that was the best compliment I get for it. Musical genius.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that, man. Well, people would be surprised to know that I literally listen to everything, like just music, just musical vibration.
Okay.
Anything that's melodic or, I have a very strong attraction to musical scores of like movies and things like that. That classical theatrical song, I know you know about the pentatonics, right?
Yes,
You
of
heard
course.
of them? Right. The way that they blend their melodies with their harmonies and it's just that classical feel. I really, really dig that. So where like people will pass and I'd probably be listening to some Mozart or something like loud in the car, like I turn it up. I really like, let's say if I'm listening to if I have to perform, like I'm in a soca monarch or whatever, I would really listen to my own song. After creating it, like I'm the kind of guy that if I'm trying to read or do research on something, while I research and I writing down exactly what I'm seeing. Because once I write it, I remember it. So I practice mentally.
Yep.
So me having to sit down and listen to that all the time, I get my inspiration from other genres, So I would take myself out of the soca realm for now and go into classical and just be there like, then I just get an idea like, oh, okay. So that's big for me.
Amazing.
The classical theatrical. So I just love the chord structures, the progressions, the runs. I just love it. I just love it.
Amazing, amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here on The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman with the gentleman himself, the musical genius here in the beautiful British Virgin Islands, the one and only Ramon G. He gave us some absolute, just a whole heap of nuggets. We talked about patience, higher calling, faith in God, family, being grounded, and just ultimately believing yourself. As we said earlier in our introduction, you're going to make mistakes, gentlemen. You're going to fall on your ass flat. You're going to bust your nose. You're going to scrape up your knees. I got my knees out today. You're going to scrape them up. But the most important thing as we progress in life as gentlemen is understanding that life is about mistakes, and our beauty, the beauty in it all, is for us to get up, dust ourselves, and keep moving. It has been a pleasure. One of my absolute favorite episodes with the one and only Ramon G. I'm Ron Grant, and you've been watching The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Is business slow? Cash flow down? Hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.